Chris Bob, my friends, I hope this finds you well. Apologies for, again, this seems like to be all I do really, is apologise, isn't it, for not uploading. Your old pal, the Viking Vicar, he's going through it a little bit at the minute. I can't really go into much in the way of details, but it's not been a good time, is all. I'm okay, I'm okay. It's not been a good time. But I do want to share with you one positive. From before all this, where I am now, began really, I did a talk for Mothers Union. I'm a very good sort of friend to the Mothers Union, and they're very good friends to me. And whenever I get the chance to go and do anything for Mothers Union, I absolutely will. I'm leading their retreat at the end of this month, actually, their Advent retreat, so I'm looking forward to doing that. I really do need to get cracking on putting together some reflections for that, though, so naughty Viking Vicar, get on with it. So I did a talk for Mothers Union and one of their branches. I won't mention which branch it was. And this talk was essentially, I was talking about my life story. I was telling them about what made me me, how I got to be where I am today. And I talked a little bit about pain, physical pain. Now, of course, just a quick bit of background for those of you that might be new to all this. My left leg was rebuilt years ago, and it's a constant source of pain. That's the top and bottom of it. And so as I was talking to them about pain, one of the elder members of the Mothers Union branch that I was at, I say elder, I mean, bless her, she's got to be touching 90, I think. We'll call her Dora for the sake of this video. That's not her real name, but we'll call her Dora for the video. Dora cannot get around without a stick. Dora needed a stick to get anywhere. And I was taking questions at the end of my talk, and Dora, she doesn't put her hand up. She just stands up. And I sort of looked at her and I was like, oh, okay. And I could see some of the other members like, oh my gosh, you know. And she said to me, Father, you talk about pain. And she was like, I am in constant pain. And almost straight away she started to tear up. And I didn't know what to do. This is not a theological reflection. I'm not using scripture for this. This is me. And I'm stood there and I'm mic'd up because it was quite a big meeting, really. And I didn't know what to do. And it's quite funny because I talk to these guys about sometimes one of the most earnest prayers just being, help. And at that moment, I offered that prayer. I was stood there looking at Dora, stood up looking at me with a need for some sort of answers in her eyes. Because she was telling me about this pain she's constantly in. She was saying her hands always hurt. And I mean, they were quite sort of afflicted by arthritis. She was saying her hands always hurt. She was saying that she was in emotional pain because of the death of her husband. And all these things. And I just stood there, I looked at Dora, and I thought, help. What do I do at that moment? Because sometimes, see, with all I've had to deal with and with all I've had to go through over the last 4 years, I forget I've only been ordained that long. So I did what I could. And I walked over and, oops, I just dropped the top of a paintbrush. I'll pick it up later. I walked over to her and I took Dora's hands in mine. And I just leaned close to her and I said, tell me. Tell me. And I'm not trying to say the Holy Spirit took over my body or anything like that, because I'm not worthy of that. But what happened was it wasn't something I would naturally have done. It's never been my gifting. So I walked over and I took Dora's hands and I said to her, tell me. And she did. And she stood there, and I'm still mic'd up. Everybody can hear this going on. We're in front of everybody. There's no, we didn't go off to a private room anywhere. No. We are literally stood in front of this Mothers Union meeting. And I'm holding Dora's hands, and I say to her, tell me. And she tells me everything. And I just held her hands. And I just said to her, he will make all things well. And I prayed for it, and I couldn't begin to tell you what I prayed for, because I don't remember it. I just remember praying for Dora while I held her hands, and then I kissed them. And she just looked at me, and the smile she gave me, I've never seen one like it. It was the smile of someone who is free. And she just sat back down. She thanked me and just sat back down. And I sort of stepped back from Dora, and I thought, what just happened? What was that? And I remember looking at my hands in front of everybody as if to say, what the heck happened? And then I remembered, you're on still. You're still stood in front of everybody. Close the meeting, damn it. And so I sort of said, is there any more questions? And another one said to me, can you help? I feel massively estranged from my family. And we'll call her Karen. I went over and I put my arm around Karen's shoulder. And I prayed for her. And I kissed her on the head. And then, we'll have another one. Her name was Sarah, for example. I don't know her real name. Well, I do, but I'm not putting them on here. Sarah comes over to me and says, my shoulder hurts. Will you touch it? And so I did. I put my hands on it and I prayed again. And I don't know if any of this made a difference. I do one thing. As I was leaving, Dora beckoned me back over. And I went over to her and she just put her arms, because I was sort of leaning close to her, she just put her arms around the back of my head. And she just held on to me. And she pulled me close and she whispered, but I heard it plain as day. She said, it feels like the noose has gone. And she just gave me this smile. And I knew, like I've said before in my testimony video, it'll be all right. I knew it's going to be all right for Dora and Karen and for Sarah. And I think my point, my friends, is this, that I have never had that kind of gifting. That's never been my thing. I've always said those of us who answer the call of Christ were given gifts, each of us. It's almost like a toolkit, a divine toolkit. And some of us have got the ability to understand tongues. I've never heard it myself, but if someone starts speaking a language that's been dead for 1,000 years, there are people out there that can understand it. There are priests out there that can walk into the most chaotic environment and bring stability. There are people that can lay on hands and heal others. I ain't never been one of them. I've always been the person that's not afraid to get elbows deep in filth. I'm always the person that's not afraid to crawl through the sludge and say to people, Jesus is here as well. I've always never been afraid to be the one to stand next to somebody and say, he's here. I've never been one to put hands on people and to heal. I've hurt plenty of people with them, but I've never healed anybody with them. I've never helped anybody with them. And so for that to happen with Dora, with Karen, and with Sarah, it was 3 in one day, And I remember getting in my car to leave, and I just sat there for the longest time, just looking at my hands. And even now, it's not happened since. But I look at, every now and again, I'll look at my hands and I think, that happened. For a moment, that happened. And I don't have any great takeaway from this. I don't have any great, this is the moral of today's story, kids. I don't have that. All I have is my account of what happened. And I'm still trying to work it out. I'm still trying to fathom what went on. And yet, the reason I'm sharing this, I think, is because it happened. And what we need to understand is that when the time comes, that prayer, help. Say it. Throw it up. Because that's exactly what I did on that Monday. And look what happened. And so, friends, I can't begin to fathom where all this is going to go, because I don't know. And like I said, your old pal, the Viking Victory, is going through it a bit at the minute, but it's nothing that won't be sorted. But just know I'm still here, and I'm still doing the work. I'm still looking after God's people as much as I can. And yeah, just remember that prayer, guys. When you're out and about and guff hits the fan, I can't swear at YouTube, but when you get out there and guff hits the fan, and you don't know what else to do, like when little old Dora stood up, and I thought, oh gosh, what do I do now? That prayer, help. That makes all the difference. And he does listen. I can't explain it, and I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to trust that he was there, he did it through me, and if and when the time comes, he'll do it again. And until then, all I can do is keep being me, and keep finding myself in these positions where I can say he's here with us. And when he's ready, I'll show that he's there with us, you know. But guys, listen, it's always a pleasure, and I hope you're all okay. And whatever you're doing on this horrible, wet, rainy Monday, do it safely, okay? God bless you, my friends, and take care.